From the Gulf South
to your corner of the world,
this is DX Central Live.
Now here's your host, Lloyd Van Horn.
All right, can you guys hear me now? It wouldn't be DX Central Live without a little technical mumbo-jumbo juju going on. So, seriously, can y'all hear me now? Let me know in the chat. There we go. Nice. Oi! And vey and all that stuff. I think all that sounds good. Does the audio sound like usual, like nice and kind of clear and stuff? Sounds like I'm in a tin can. I wonder, does that help a little bit? It's a little better now, a little better. A little better audio, a little better audio. Sounds mono. Okay. How about now? Should we take it now? Now better, no mono, nice stereo, full separation, left ear, right ear, everybody happy, everybody sounding good? Could be a bit louder. I can turn it up a little bit here. I don't want to go crazy with it. How about now? We sounding good now? I want to make sure we get this dialed in. Well, that seems really loud. How about now? Is that good? Good audio? Left and right ears? Everybody good? Yeah? All right. I think we should be all right. Okay, it's fine. It works. Good enough. All right, good. Here we go. Welcome to DX Central Live, North Shore Studios. It's Friday night, and yeah, we're trying to do some DX tonight. I was saying before my microphone let me down there. We were basically here this week. You guys were all doing some great AM DX, and I was wanting to do some of that myself, but it was FM DX week here in Mandeville, and I know our friends up in Arkansas, the boot. I call us the boot crew, Arkansas and Louisiana. The Arkansas folks and us and Mike down in Mexico, we all had ourselves a little FM opening this week. So got to a little sporadic E in the middle of January, a little Christmas in January. So I think one of the guys from Arkansas called it January, which I thought was kind of clever. So we got to do that. Got a little ham radio action in this week as well, which was nice, but didn't have a whole lot after about, let's say Wednesday, I think it was when the FM started going crazy. Tuesday, Wednesday, somewhere in there. But we did a little on Saturday, Sunday, Monday to start the week off on our frequency of the week, 1500 to 1540. So we got a little bit of DX in there to kind of get us started. And so we'll talk a bit about that, what you guys have been hearing this week. We'll look at the numbers from the medium wave frequency challenge. And we'll also, of course, do our usual shout outs. You guys already got the shout out form being submitted. Lots of submissions already in there. A lot of stuff to get to, a lot of shout outs to get to. And maybe this was what broke the microphone, because tonight we bring back the Horn of Victory. So maybe that's what broke it. I don't know what it was. But anyway, so we got that coming. We got a new week of the medium wave frequency challenge to announce this week. We're going a little bit easy on us. We've had several weeks now of just like, 1500 to 1500 to 1540 or 900 to 940. We've had these big ranges, the graveyard frequencies, right? We've been doing these big chunks of the band. We're going to go a little lighter this week. We're going to go much, much lighter this week. And we have Mardi Gras going on down here in the New Orleans area. So we've got some parades to go to. I'll actually be at a parade next Friday night. So no live stream next Friday. Maybe it'll give me a chance to get this microphone situation sorted out. But we'll be back here soon to make sure that we can give you guys more great live DX. But we have maybe a week in here or so of some time off for Mardi Gras, for parade season. Gotta go parading. All right, so we were usually going to be doing our top of the hour DX, but we missed that window thanks to the PC issues. It was just so weird. The microphone was not working, and then I just was sitting there. I was like, and it just started working again randomly after I did my restart. Even when I first restarted, it didn't work, and I was like, what is going on? But here we are. So we will be getting to some live DX tonight here in this first hour. We'll do a little bit of that just to kind of make up for the top of the hour that we missed. And we'll also be doing a look back to this week in our medium wave frequency challenge. No video this week from week, what week is that? Week 3. We don't have a video for this week, for week 3. But we will be looking at the stats from week 4 and week 3. We'll kind of wrap those two up. And I'm getting ready to announce week 5. We'll get to your shout outs. We'll talk about the FMDX that we had this week. We just got a lot to get to as always. So let us start with a little bit of live DX. As we do, this one is brought to you by the National Radio Club. That's NRC, National Radio Club. NationalRadioClub.org is a website to go to for more information about becoming a member. And let's start here on the Perseus. We've got our northwest, southeast antenna. We've got our north, northeast, south, southwest antenna at 15 degrees. We got the northwest pointing at 305 right now on the Perseus. So let's take a look there. We'll start here on 1540. I've been looking all week. Well, I did earlier in the week for the Bahamas. I didn't get a chance to get them this week. I thought I had them for a few minutes because I was trying to pair them with 810, which gets out very, very well. But didn't have a chance to do them this week. I was going to swap the antennas back to the south, and then we had storms. Storms. It's been raining nonstop here since what, Wednesday, somewhere in there. We had 6 inches of rain. I think it was on Wednesday we got. It's been crazy. And tonight we have more in the areas you guys probably saw on the little lightning map that we had earlier. So let's start here on 1540 and see what we got. If I can get this audio to work. Let's try this here. Don't tell me now this isn't going to work. Come on, man. Now the SDR is not going to work. Okay, I think the Horn of Victory officially has jinxed us. officially. Because now we got this nice little. Yeah, David, we had some flooding down the lakefront about a mile from the house here. All around us, actually. It was some pretty significant flooding, so the Horn of Victory, it's jinxed us this week. We brought it back after a couple weeks off, and now look what it's done to us here. We got our Jaguar program frozen. Let me see if I can get the Air Spy working. Is that going to do anything for me tonight? How about it, Air Spy? What you got? There we go. Can't catch a break tonight. Okay, there we go. Alright, so let's see what we got here. We're on the northwest wire. Let's dial in a little vactrol action. Actually, we're down on the northwest wire. Question, does the mic audio sound better now on this this instance that I'm doing right now than it did at the beginning? Curious about that. About the same? Okay. Let's throw a lower side band here, get away from that the 1550 slot. And there's lightning crashes right on cue. Oh, I'm on... Which version am I on? V9 Pro. V9. I don't... It's the August 21st, 2023 build. That's where we're at here on the Jaguar. Alright, I believe this Spanish station that we're hearing in here is probably Dallas. Most likely. I do want to take a second to mention here, I think, yeah, it looks like tomorrow night our friend Justin Wolfing here in Minnesota, you can find him on YouTube here, UB Studios is his username here on YouTube. He usually does live streams on Saturday nights, like me. He was a little late this season coming in. So it looks like he's going to be trying to do one tomorrow night around 9 o'clock Central Time, more than likely. So make sure you are subscribed to his channel as well. And that way you can be notified if he does end up going live tomorrow night from his home shack there in Minnesota. Really great live stream when he does his. You get to see a completely different look at the band than what we get down here on this end of the Mississippi River down here in Louisiana. So really, really good stuff. 15:30 earlier, we had KVDW in England, Arkansas in here. And our friend Sean also had them coming in over in Illinois. Could hear them. Right now, probably going to be mostly WCKY. Yep, that's them.
I mean, I'm going to go number 1, Lamar Jackson.
We do have a Spanish station in there as well, which is probably Mexico XEUR. That's my guess.
Now, this is where it gets tricky. Because Jared Goff, I don't know how many people realize this. Jared Goff was second in the NFL this year.
They've been pretty loud all week. Let's see, 1520 KOKC.
You don't even have to ask us to do it. Please give us a call at 405-293-935.
And then the Greek ethnic station that you hear underneath is WXYB in Indian Rocks, Florida. A station that just loves to send their ID out like every 5 minutes, right? We get to hear IDs from them all the time. I say with sarcasm. 1510 WLAC.
Like a mini emergency fund.
Okay.
But I don't have a huge savings because I'm just throwing.
Saw some of you got to hear Monumental this week, some for the first time. Awesome. I was really hoping for that.
You have that set aside, and then you.
Thanks, Bill, for that in the Slack channel, my friend. And KSTP has been our main friend here on 1500. I did hear WFBD in Washington this week. Very, very, very weak. But I heard him in there very briefly one night, so got to put them in there. Let's go ahead and take a look, though, if we can, at what's been done so far here in this week on the challenge. Actually, I haven't logged in yet, so I guess I need to do that. So, log in. There we go. Not a robot. I promise. And then let's go here to our current week. We'll be changing this out here in a little bit for our new week, week 5. But for week 4, we can look down here and see been a pretty good week for you guys. Look at Barry, just pulling away here at the stretch run. 41 logs here for Barry. You got Bill at 24. David up in Maine. Sorry, 34 for Bill. Didn't mean to shortchange you there, Bill. David up in Maine with 30. Bart, our friend in Tennessee, with 28. Jack, and there were 20. Jacob Hammond in Minnesota with 27. Then we've got Dennis in Virginia with 26, and Mike with 25, also in Virginia. So, and you see quite a few folks in here as well. We got a lot of the answers. You guys are doing good, submitting logs in here. So I really appreciate all the support you guys have had so far this season. I feel like maybe some of the changes we made it a little more accessible, a little easier for folks to do. So I appreciate y'all being in here and submitting these logs and being part of the fun. Some of the fun stuff to look at here. KSTP, the most heard station so far this week with 19 logs out of Minnesota. WCKY right behind him with 18. I thought WLAC would be number 1 off, I'm going to be honest. There's only one log, but still, I figured LAC would be that top dog this week for the most heard station. KXEL. I remember when I was in Charleston, I didn't really have a lot of luck hearing them. I did hear them once or twice, but they weren't that common. So I was a little surprised to see how well they got out this week on the eastern side of the country with 17 logs. So there's your top ones here on the station count. 115 total unique stations thus far. Of course, we are closing that out here in about 36 minutes or so. Ohio, the most heard state, thanks to WCKY largely. Look at Barry up here with 23 states heard. My goodness. 23 states. Where's Jeff? Jeff, where's your... Oh, you got some stuff in there. I guess you haven't done a whole lot this week, man. You still got time to get your logs in. So you still got time to pass Jeff. Or Jeff, you have time to pass Barry if you can get some of those logs in here, man. Another 30 minutes or so. Countries. A lot of folks hearing stuff. Venezuela was heard. Bahamas, Ecuador, nicely done. I really wanted Bahamas this week. I really wanted to put them in here, but I didn't get a chance to hear them. And then look at these totals. Venezuela for Jeff coming in here with a 4,600 mile catch. And Radio Monumental, I knew they would be the main one kind of bringing stuff in for a mileage. 3,200 miles for Justin. Around that for Jacob as well. David here with 3,175. So good to see you guys all getting these some of these countries. I always like to make sure whenever we do these challenges, I can't always do it every time, but I try to include frequencies in there that'll give folks a chance to hear new countries or to hear some Latin American stuff, because I know that thrill, right? I know what it's like to get that new country in there in the logbook from South America. And you're like, oh my gosh, I finally heard Ecuador. I remember the night very clearly when I first heard them. So I want more folks to have that opportunity. So that's one of the things we try to do with the challenges each week. And this week looks like we had a successful one. Let's look back here really quick while we're in here. Let's look back to week 3. Because again, I didn't do a video this week. Day job this week was pretty crazy. But we will look back now to week 3 and give some shout outs here from our side on the week 3 piece like we usually do in the videos. If I can get this to load, there we go. So 333 total logs last week, and of those 26DXers, 8 countries heard last week. This was again 1140. Sorry, 26DXers, 8 countries, 42 states, 509 logs total coming in last time. And our top folks were Jeff and Barry, tied dead heat at 57. Dead heat. I thought we might have a chance right there at the end for one of the other to take over, but 57 logs each, dead heat there for Barry and Jeff last week, week 3. Jacob right there behind with 46, David Pete with 36, Bill 32, that guy had a couple, Bart with 30, Neil, not Niall, it's Neil, with 22, and Justin there with 20, also tied Dennis with 20. So another good week last week as well. Our top station of the week last week was KMOX, as you can probably imagine, getting out very, very well. Out of 120 unique stations, KMOX reigned supreme. But look at that in New York with 44 loggings of New York, mostly WBBR, right? But there was also, was it KAJ up in New York, upstate New York on 1120, also was heard. So a good week there. Jacob Hammond led the way on the states with 27 of them. Good job, Jacob, from Minnesota. I look at this every time, and I'm trying to kind of keep up with everybody, and trying to kind of see kind of what I'm able to hear compared to what you guys are hearing, and I try to keep up. And I'm sitting here, and the week starts out good. I'm like, I'm hanging in there. I'm doing pretty good, and I start to. I'm squeezing out everything that I can out of these frequencies, and then I see y'all still getting like 10 more, and 15 more, and 20 more. And I'm like, all these states. I'm like, how are they doing this? I don't know, man. Y'all are crushing it. That's all I gotta say. Y'all are squeezing DX out of the air, and you're doing a really great job. So keep it up, man. Because I look at y'all and I'm like, I don't know how they're getting this stuff, because it's really, really impressive. 7 countries for Jeff leading the way. Canada, most heard country outside of the U.S. with 23 stations. Most of those would have been CHIN. Top mileage was Uruguay. We talked about this briefly last week. Uruguay, Radio Nacional on 1130 for Jeff out of Fishers, Indiana. 5,338 miles. So you guys know I'll be working up our season stats for the entire season. So is that going to be the top spot? I think right now it's the leading mileage for those that have come into the barn. So we'll take a look here soon, and we'll look at our season stats and see how that shakes up and compares to everybody else. So we have a new week coming up here. We'll be announcing that here in a little bit. But before we get too much further in here, I do want to do one quick round of shout-outs. Can we do those real quick? And then we'll take a quick break and come back, and we'll get ready for some more DX. Top of the hour alerts coming up here in a bit. And we'll do the announcement for the new frequency of the week. So let's start our announcements. We got the Horn of Victory loaded up. Everybody ready? Got that Horn of Victory loaded and ready. So I'm going to pull the chat up here so I can keep an eye on all that for y'all. What y'all are telling me here in the chat. Okay. Let's start off with John Johnson in Mesa, Arizona. XPBGR 1510 in Guadalajara, Mexico. New station log while DXing for this week's challenge. That's the 105th Mexican station logged from Mesa. Very nice. Also, new log KHIT 1450 in Reno, Nevada. Nevada number 23 from Arizona. That's 860 total logs from Mesa for John Johnson. Good job, my friend. Yes, sir. All right, let's go ahead and mark that one done. Stephanie, you're up, my friend. Stephanie with 7 new logs this week. from Mexico as well. Good week from Mexico. 570 XE BJB San Nicolas de la Garza, Nuevo Leon, 500 watts at 1,127 miles. We also got a 1,200 mile Radio Miled in Guadalajara from the same 1510 XEP BGR, 1530 XEUR Buenasima, Mexico City, 1,452 miles for those three. And then also from the U.S., 980 KVLV Fallon, Nevada. It's a daytimer at 419 miles. 980 kilohertz KSPZ in Idaho, 713 miles. 1540 KEDA in San Antonio, Texas, 1,101 miles. And 1540 KENT Enterprise, Nevada, 167 miles. So we saw some logs. And we blow the horn of victory. That feels better. I felt like something was missing with the celebrations until now. And now I know what it was. It was the Horn of Victory. Matthew in Manhattan, Kansas. All right. You guys ready to do this? 88.1 FM, 89.7 FM in Ciudad de Mexico, New Mexican State, logged on January 25th, 1,365 miles. So we go here. Yes, sir. Ah, yes, New Mexican State on the FM side. Oh, man, we have fun here, don't we? I'm getting you that link right now, Barry, and we're going to copy, and we're going to hit paste. There you go. There is the pasted link in there for the shout-outs. Same link. You can bookmark that. It'll be the same link every week. So you can hold on to that sucker. Mike in Mexico. Speaking of FM, let's talk about this one. Let's talk about Mike. So we were comparing notes because Mike and I were hearing pretty much the exact opposites of each other during this FM opening. So the big E opening on January 22nd yielded 83 new loggings from Kansas to Florida, with 2 of those states being new for him on FM, as well as Arkansas, Missouri, and Louisiana. So we've got a couple things to do here. We've got the new states here for Mike, and we're not done. We've got some gumbo, baby. Les bon temps roulés, as we say. Let's stir some gumbo. Yes, sir. Streetcar named DX. Look at all those new FM logs from Mike. 83 new stations logged from Mexico into most of the Gulf area here during the E-Skip opening. So good job, Mike, my friend. Really happy that you finally got a chance to have some E-Skip fun down there. No, you didn't have as much this last season as you wanted, so I'm glad you got into it here. John up in Delaware, 2 new logs this week. KSTP St. Paul, Minnesota on the 21st, and WLG in Logan, Ohio on the 22nd. Good job, my friend, John. Sean has that steel trap memory. He remembered last week when I said Bourbon Street where the naughty things happen. Seen some of that. Try not to tell too many of those stories because Mom's actually in the other room over here this week. So she's not in the chat this week. No Shortwave Central in the chat. She's actually sitting here in the living room listening to the live stream here and watching On Patrol Live. And so I better be careful on the stories that I tell about Bourbon Street.
Can I wait?
Yeah, Sammy. Come on
Hey, everybody.
There she is. I couldn't see it. There's the way. You can kind of see it. Yay! David in Maine, we got you some new logs in here, 10 new ones, furthest being KOKC, Oklahoma. That's the second Oklahoma station, so good job, David. Yes, sir. And let's do one more and we'll come back. We got several more to get to in here. You guys are throwing these in, so please continue to do it. Put up the link in the chat a few moments ago. Again, bookmark that sucker because it's the same link every week. Just keep those coming. So we'll get to another round of some shout outs here in a bit. But first, let's do one more here for Keegan. Again, some of the boot crew here in the Arkansas, Louisiana area that had some fun with E-Skip this week. Let's talk about it. January 21st, KRRB in Kuna, Idaho. Rejoice Radio, 1,310 miles. That's new. We saw Keegan also get several on the 22nd. Let's talk about 93.1 in Mexico, KHPBUJR in San Juan del Rio. 98.5 KHEOM in Veracruz at 1,248 miles. That's a little bit longer there. El Paso, Texas, KOFX on 92.3, 758 miles. KSII, El Paso, Texas, 756 miles on 93.1. KYSE, El Paso at 756 miles, 94.7. We got KTXO in Goldsmith, Texas. KGWB in Snyder, Texas. 1,003 miles from Cottonwood, Arizona on 95.9 KKLD. And then we had another opening last night. Just out of the blue, kind of just showed up and wouldn't go away. It would go away and come back and go away and come back. And that was 97.3 XHGF in Veracruz at 1,099 miles. 89.9 XHTXP in San Juan. That is San Juan Bautista, and that was 1,253 miles. Nice. XHMO in Michoacan, that was 1,209 miles, and 97.7 XHSNP San Luis Potosi Radio Caliente, 1,046 miles. My goodness, man. You get all these horns, man. Look at all that stuff, that FM goodness. E-Skip opening supreme. So good job, Keegan, and all those. We've got shout outs in so far. Again, we'll do another round of shout outs here in a little bit, so don't go anywhere. If you have a shout out submitted, you haven't heard it yet, we will get to yours here shortly. But we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have some more live DX heading your way, including getting ready for a top of the hour alert coming up here at the top of the hour, and we'll be doing our announcement for week 5 of the Medium Wave Frequency Challenge. So don't go anywhere, my friends. More DX Central Live heading your way.
DX Central, because we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central. DX Central Live is brought to you in part by...
From the pages of its DX Monitor member bulletin, members of the International Radio Club of America share their domestic and international AM/DX loggings. In its Mexican log, a wealth of information can be found of stations from south of the border. Technical guides, sunrise, sunset maps, and more make the IRCA a must-join for any AM/DXer. For more information, log on to ircaonline.org. That's ircaonline.org. While the HF bands can be filled with entertaining and intriguing transmissions, how do you know when and where to look? Let Teague Publishing's Global Radio Guide lead the way. In addition to its exhaustive list of time and frequency for international broadcasters, radio hobby icon Gail Van Horn brings you equipment reviews, an SDR buyer's guide, feature articles, and more. Pick up your copy today. Visit teaguepublishing.com for more information. That's teaguepublishing.com. Since 1933, the National Radio Club has been serving AM/DXers while providing some of the most in-depth information in the hobby. From the annual NRC AM log, a must-have reference for domestic station information, to antenna design reference manuals, and of course, the DX News member bulletin, which is filled with station information updates, domestic and international loggings, and a whole lot more. Become a member today. For more information, log on to nationalradioclub.org. That's nationalradioclub.org.
Through crashes of static in quiet hours, we listen. In languages we can scarcely understand, and of places we have only visited in our dreams, we listen. Incessantly, we perfect our array of aerials, receivers, and resources. We refine our skills and our techniques so that we might listen. We are DX Central, and we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central.
Keep up with DX Central. Follow us on Twitter at DX Central.
From the DX Central North Shore Studios, this is DXC Live. Now here's your host, Lloyd Van Horn.
It's DX Central Live from the North Shore Studios here in Mandeville, Louisiana, and we are bringing you live AMDX on Friday nights here on our 4 platforms. We got YouTube and Twitch, we got Twitter and EarthX, and we've got Facebook as well. So appreciate wherever you might be watching us tonight. We appreciate you being here with us, and hopefully you're enjoying yourself, maybe learning a little bit here and there. If you're new to DX, make sure you stop by our website. Our website is dxcentralonline.com. You can find a lot of information there about getting started in AMDX or FMDX, whichever one you might be interested in, or maybe try both of them. We do it here. We're big into both. We have a lot of folks here that'll tell you about FMDX being as addictive as it could possibly be. AM is a lot of fun. It's super addictive as well, but there's something about those FM openings that just get in your blood. Ask Mike. He got to experience that this week. Mike Jaziorsky down there in Mexico. If you do participate on Twitter, make sure you follow us there at DX Central. We'd love to have you be one of our followers, and I post tips and tricks if there's something going on, like a station off the air that's like a big one, like when WSB last year went off the air for a couple nights. We talked about it there, make sure our followers knew about it. Ham radio stuff that I do, we post there, catches that we get here, announcements about the channel or about DX Central, all that goes through our social media as well. And then obviously from this side of things, make sure you don't forget about our YouTube channel here, youtube.com/@DXCentral. Make sure you subscribe. We'd appreciate it if you give us a thumbs up and a comment here on this video as well. That really does help us out. So appreciate any help you guys can be on giving us a little love on these live streams. And while you're there on the here on the channel, I guess, feel free to browse around. We got a lot of air checks. We got some how-to videos, DX 101, where we talk about antennas and recording on SDRs and SDR use and all these kind of different topics. We got all of our archived live streams from the last 3 years up there. Can't believe I can now say that we've been up. This is our 4th season of DX Central Live, as truncated as it might be. And so hopefully you'll find something in there that will wet your whistle as a DXer, whether it's AM or FM or some of the other stuff that we do. Hopefully we got something in there for you that will be interesting. Speaking of Live DX, again, this live hour of Live DX is brought to you by the National Radio Club. It's nationalradioclub.org. And please make sure that you support the clubs. They are such a big supporter for us. So nationalradioclub.org. Make sure you go over there, check out the membership area and how to become a member. It's not expensive, especially if you do the online bulletins, the EDXN. Super, super cost effective, and you get a lot of benefit in doing so. Not only some of the publications and things like that where you get reduced cost, but also just the fellowship, the community that we have of DXers and the clubs is really, really great. So we've been sitting here on our Perseus for the last run. Let's go take a look now at our AirSpy. So on the AirSpy, we've got 2 antennas. We've got our mini whip at 45 feet up in the air, PA0 RDT mini whip. We talked about that last week. What a great antenna that is. We've also got a Superloop. It is a 12-foot by 56-foot long Superloop. Right now pointed at 340 degrees on the north-hand side. When we flip it back down to the south, it's at 160 degrees to give us a little bit of a view into Central and South America. But right now, we're looking north, mainly because I'm trying to get away from these lightning storms. Trying to point my antenna away from the lightning crashes as much as I possibly can, because right now they're pretty crazy. As you'll still see, because even if I'm pointing away from them, they're still going to be there. So let's take a look here, starting on our frequencies from this week, 1540 down to 1500. We'll do one more look here around and see what we've got on the North Wire on the AirSpy HF Plus Discovery. And I am keeping an eye on the radar here as well, just in case I have to run outside and unplug these bad boys. Because vactrols are very sensitive. Vactrol's the device we have on the back side to control the null on the back end and keep the directionality. They're sensitive to lightning, very, very sensitive to lightning. So I'm going to make sure we're not going to let those come in here and do any damage. with all the storms we've been having. But it looks like we should be okay right now. But there is stuff coming. Awesome. Okay. So keep it in. As always, let us know what you're hearing. Pull up a chair, pull up a radio, and DX alongside with us. If you've got a frequency that you want us to go check out, even if it's outside of our frequency of the week range, we're more than happy to jump onto it for you. My guess is this 1540. Probably Mexico, maybe? Y'all catch that ID, what that was? I heard it at FM, it was like something .9 FM, I think. Let me get you Stephanie here, hold on. Because this actually could be a really good antenna for you. It might be a little noisy if you aren't able to do a ground rod, maybe. But I'm gonna send to you here in the chat. So that is Ralph's QRZ page. It has his email address. You just email him directly and he'll coordinate with you. It's 59 euros for the mini whip. You got it. Anybody else got a lead on this oldie station here? Blues station? I thought for a second that's on 1500 in case the LF&B Road was still on. But I don't know on this 1540.
Anyways, thank you so much, Bobby, for that. I got to play one more here. This goes out very especially to our lovely lady that left this earth about 6 years ago. And Sunday's going to be the 6th anniversary of her departure from this earth. And it goes out to her family, the Galan family, Mr. Galan, Debbie, Roy,
Of course, there they go. It'll do the trick, Rick. That is definitely one of the things that the testing that I've done so far, it's been limited because of all the storms, but the mini whip does a really good job down low. It really does, especially if you can get it up high. The higher you get it, the more gain you'll get. And if you can get that ground rod in, I got a 4-footer in the ground. And a Alpha Delta lightning arrestor for the coax to go through, and it does the trick. Keeps it nice and quiet, and the gain is pretty solid as well on that thing. So I'm a big fan. the mini web. So let's go ahead and do something real quick here. Let me hit. We're gonna do two things real quick before we do our announcement here for our new frequency of the week. We're gonna go ahead and publish this bad boy here. Update. So this should be now published there. And if that worked, then I can come back over to the main page. So we're gonna go ahead and do our announcement for week 5 of the Medium Wave Frequency Challenge. And why did that not publish? Yeah, do it now. Do it right now. Publish that bad boy. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and do the announcement for week 4 or 5 rather of the Medium Wave Frequency Challenge. Again, this week I wanted to take it easy on ourselves here a little bit because we've had several weeks of just back to back craziness. So we are going to be a little bit lighter of a load this week. So instead of a big frequency range, we're really going to focus on 2 main US frequencies. Obviously, I always like to do a range to include our friends overseas, or those in the US who might hear stuff overseas. So we're going to have a little bit of that in there as well as usual. Let me get that. Why isn't this going? There we go. Update that. So let's go ahead and announce week 5 of the Medium Wave Frequency Challenge. All right, we're going to 1410 to 1422, and the form on the website, dxchallenges.com, will be live here at the top of the hour. So the page should be live, but the form will be coming up here at the top of the hour, so you guys can start doing some logs at that point. So 1410 to 1422. So here in the US, that's really 2 frequencies, 1410, 1420. And here in New Orleans, where I am, 1410 is a given. I know exactly what that's going to be. Pretty much 24 hours a day, it's going to be WNGL, Archangel Radio in Mobile. And then 1420 is a little bit more wide open. We have a little bit more stuff to work with on that frequency. So I'm actually looking forward to fleshing that one out a little bit. I've got a handful of stations on that frequency, but not anywhere near kind of what I'm looking to have. I want to have much more on that frequency. So I'm hoping we'll have a chance to do that. So let's go ahead now and get ready for some live DX. We got top of the hour alert coming up here in just a little bit. Our first one of the night, thanks to the microphone. And this hour of live DX is brought to you by the International Radio Club of America, ircaonline.org. Make sure you check them out as well. It's a super cheapo membership fee to get in there. It's a lifetime fee. What you pay, you're in. And you just got to let them know every year to want to keep that going. And you get your online DX monitor bulletin and all a bunch of resources on the website and so forth. So make sure, again, you are supporting the clubs that support us as a community, because they are super helpful to have around, and making sure that we all stay in the loop on what's going on about DX tests when we get those going, what people are hearing, etc. So make sure you are a member. All right, let's start on 1410. Any bets? It's going to be Archangel Radio, maybe? I am on the Northwest Wire.
You're listening to Holy Mass on Relevant Radio.
Okay, Relevant Radio is at least a little bit different.
Go into the world and proclaim the gospel. I am with you always, says the Lord.
It was a Florida Relevant Radio.
For those of you watching or listening, this is a good time to make a spiritual communion. I wish my Lord to receive you with the purity, humility, and devotion with which your most holy mother receives you. With a firm,
I don't see. Are there any other Relevant Radios on 1410? I didn't see anything except for a Florida station. We're going to go pull up Tim Trump's website here. Y'all can follow along with me here. Next hour, we're going to be talking FMDX. For those who are either already ingrained into the FMDX world or interested in dabbling their toes, we'll be talking about that. And what we heard this week during our opening. Yeah, I'm on Tim's site. I don't see anything relevant radio except for the one in Florida. Maybe MYR down here in Fort Myers, which would be a new one for me, actually. That's a good way to start the week. Unless this is Archangel Radio with relevant radio programming, which is entirely possible. And probably, knowing my luck, that's what it would be. Alright, you know what time it is? Burn off them sirens, Bill. I'm going to assume it's probably Archangel NGL. A quick glance up at 1420. A bit more wide open. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead. I'm going to mute the Perseus really quick. Let's go back over to our AirSpy HF Plus Discovery and our Superloop Quantum Phaser PA0 RDT Mini Whip combo. Let's go down here to 1410 and see what we have here. We'll come back to the Perseus after the top of the hour because we are recording, so we'll see what we caught. But let's go live to the AirSpy.
The Lord be with you. May Almighty God
I'm
bless
telling you,
the
that's
Father, and the
that's got to
Son,
be
and the
Archangel.
Holy Spirit. Go in peace, the Mass is ended.
Here's the mini whip.
Saint Michael, the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God.
Is the image not taking you there?
And do thou, O Prince of heavenly hosts, by the power of God, thrust into hell Satan and all evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the.
I was having a little bit of difficulty getting it to update.
And a prayer for the National Eucharistic Revival.
Surprise, surprise.
My God, I believe, I adore, I hope, I love you.
So I will check.
Pardon for those who do not believe, nor adore, nor hope, nor love you. Most Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, I adore you profoundly. I offer you the most
It should work. I just tested it. You may have to refresh your page. But there's the direct link. We maybe need to refresh your browser page on there.
Holy Mass. We invite you to listen to the live broadcast of Mass every day. Sharing the truth of our Catholic faith. Mobile, Alabama. I'm Tracy Sable tonight on EWTN News Nightly Border Battle. Senate Democrats try to find support for Ukraine as a bipartisan plan to address border security appears to be crumbling. We're on Capitol Hill, weighing in. An international court issues a ruling regarding Israel's war with Hamas. Recently freed from a kidnapping. And the spirit is moving him. Why a man is running 50 miles to honor Christ. These stories and more tonight.
Looks like the form is now up and running as well. It would reset at the top of the hour.
This is EWTN News Nightly.
So there is Mobile.
sharing the truth of our Catholic faith. This is Archangel Radio. Mobile, Alabama.
I'm Tracy Sable tonight on EWTN News Nightly. Border battle. Senate Democrats try to find support for Ukraine as a bipartisan plan to address border security appears to be crumbling. We're on Capitol Hill. Weighing in. International court issues a ruling with almost 6,000 recently freed from a kidnapping. And the spirit is moving him. Why a man is running 50 miles to honor Christ. These stories and more tonight.
EWTN, the Global Catholic Network. This is EWTN News Nightly.
Being with us on the feast of St. Timothy and Titus, our top story tonight, the White House and Senate.
Is that better? I'm hearing a BIN in here in this top of the. That's why I keep going back to it. I'm hearing what it sounds like a BIN. And let me go look at Tim's site here. So 1420. Do we have a BIN on 1420? I thought we did, but I might be thinking of another frequency. Let me look. Show all stations. BIN Black Information Network. I don't think I have one logged here, but I thought I remember seeing one. Maybe not. We might not have a BIN on this frequency, but I definitely am hearing that there at the top of the hour. So that's, let me go back to it here one more time. Yeah, that sounds like that's what that is. I don't know. I don't know. If you guys hear anything like that, if you hear a BIN on this freak, let me know. Adios, Mike. I was saying, though, for those of you who are ordering from Ralph the mini whip, make sure you let him know that we sent you his way. That way, because I did tell him we were going to be sending some folks to him for some mini whips. So let him know that you heard about it here on DX Central. All right, so that's pretty much what we started here at the top of the hour. Kind of what I was thinking. 1420 is a little bit more wide open. We don't have anything really that's consistent here. KPEL over in Lafayette area is probably the closest that I would say to it. It's a kind of consistent station here on 1420. Otherwise, it's pretty wide open for me here. 1410, though, to be in GL, that's just, they're the pests that won't go away. They're my WHKY here locally. All right. All right, let's do some more let's do some more shout outs here in a little bit. We're taking a quick break. We'll do some more shout outs. And then once we get done with those, we'll do some more live DX. And we're going to talk about some FM. We might actually do a little FM DX of a recording review from this week, the eSkip opening, to let you guys kind of see that process, what I do with my FM DX openings. And I might even show you my, do I have my May 31st? Nope, it's not loaded up. I'll show you some of the stuff from this week though, from our FMDX session. So we'll talk FMDX, let you kind of see the recording review process, because I do record the entire FM band, so we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about some more AMDX, and of course, our new frequencies of the week here for 1410 through 1422. So don't go anywhere. More DX Central Live is right after this.
DX Central, because we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central. DX Central Live is brought to you in part by...
From the pages of its DX Monitor member bulletin, members of the International Radio Club of America share their domestic and international AMDX loggings. In its Mexican log, a wealth of information can be found of stations from south of the border. Technical guides, sunrise, sunset maps, and more make the IRCA a must-join for any AMDXer. For more information, log on to ircaonline.org. That's ircaonline.org. While the HF bands can be filled with entertaining and intriguing transmissions, how do you know when and where to look? Let Teague Publishing's Global Radio Guide lead the way. In addition to its exhaustive list of time and frequency for international broadcasters, radio hobby icon Gail Van Horn brings you equipment reviews, an SDR buyer's guide, feature articles, and more. Pick up your copy today. Visit teaguepublishing.com for more information. That's teaguepublishing.com. Since 1933, the National Radio Club has been serving AMDXers while providing some of the most in-depth information in the hobby. From the annual NRC AM log, a must-have reference for domestic station information, to antenna design reference manuals, and of course, the DX News member bulletin, which is filled with station information updates, domestic and international loggings, and a whole lot more. Become a member today. For more information, log on to nationalradioclub.org. That's nationalradioclub.org.
Through crashes of static in quiet hours, we listen. In languages we can scarcely understand, and of places we have only visited in our dreams, we listen. Incessantly, we perfect our array of aerials, receivers, and resources. We refine our skills and our techniques so that we might listen. We are DX Central, and we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central.
Keep up with DX Central. Follow us on Twitter at DX Central.
From the DX Central North Shore Studios, this is DXC Live. Now here's your host, Lloyd Van Horn.
It's DX Central Live from the North Shore Studios here in Mandeville, Louisiana. And a good Friday to you. Hopefully you're having a great evening. Hopefully some good DX still coming in for you tonight and for the next coming week. We just started our new week of the Medium Wave Frequency Challenge. We're 1410 through 1422, so that means 1410 and 1420 on the 10K splits, 1413 and 1422 on the 9s. So if you do happen to hear anything on the 9s here in the US, or from the US into the rest of the world, that counts. If you're around the world and you hear something on the 10Ks, that counts too. So it's open to anyone, everyone, anywhere around the world, AMDX, on those frequencies between 1410 and 1422 inclusive, and started here at the top of the hour here 11 minutes ago and run through this time next week. That's what we're doing here, the Medium Wave Frequency Challenge. If you're new, we would love to have you participate. Make sure you go to dxchallenges.com. That's dxchallenges.com you can register and be part of the fun. Let us know what you're hearing in your neck of the woods on AM radio this week. All right, so before we get into the FMDX piece, you guys are in the chat talking about long wave, and I love the NDB stuff. It's a lot of fun to listen to NDBs and try to kind of track them down. I was doing some testing on the Mini Whip about a week or so ago, a little over a week ago, and was hearing some stuff I heard an NDB out of Puerto Rico, heard one in Jacksonville, Florida, Charleston, South Carolina, ironically. So it was during a lot of good NDBs in that neck of the woods, kind of to my east, essentially, because I wasn't looking on an antenna that was looking that direction. When I was in Charleston, when I used to live there, I had some good luck with NDBs. It's like Greenland. I heard Greenland on long wave NDB one time. So there's some good stuff to listen to for sure down there. So whether you're using a PA0 RDT mini whip or not, whatever your DX rig antenna of choice might be, you definitely want to get an SDR for this kind of stuff. You can do it with a desktop. People did it for years with a desktop radio or portable radio. That's totally fine. But if you have like a Sony ICF 2010 or something like that. But if you do have a SDR available to you, that's going to be your best bet, because you can actually kind of scan through and see on the waterfall these NDBs that are broadcasting. And I wanted to see if I can find some in here that I can give you as an example of what to kind of look for. Let me, let's see, that's not a real one. I'll get you here in a second. In 1 second. Let me get to that. Okay. Let's go over here and look real quick. Might be a little noisy tonight because of the storms and stuff, but what was one that I heard? You can usually use the screen. Yeah, it's just so noisy tonight with all the storms off the coastline. It might be kind of tough to hear anything. Oh, yeah, it's going to be really tough. Let's see if we can do anything on the Superloop. Yeah, probably not. It's going to be really, really tough tonight. I'm going to give you guys a sample of what these things sound like. It's just a Morse code ID, slow Morse code ID. And there are websites you can go to, and I will see if I can drop one here. I think it was this one was the one I used. Yeah. I don't know how updated this one is. This is Bill Hepburn's site, actually. The same guy that does the FM Tropo or Tropo forecast, as it were. He has this long wave NDB beacon website here. I just dropped in the chat. You can use to help you identify these. Oh yeah, it's just gonna be so noisy tonight. So anyway, definitely go down into with your SDR and look down the low end of the band and see what you can find. You'd be surprised at how far these things get out. You'd think, 200, 300, 400 kilohertz is not going to be that far away from you. Well, actually, they do get out pretty well. And those Morse code IDs stick out like a sore thumb. And like I said, on the SDR, you can actually see them. So you can actually see the waterfall displaying the Morse code. You can actually see the dits and the das. So highly recommend that you try these out. They are going to be on the way out. Some countries are being more aggressive with their decommissioning of NDBs than others are. But NDBs are being slowly phased out as we go along. So this is your chance to still get some while they're out. And we still have quite a few in the area of the United States that we can hear, both in the US and down in the South America, things like that. Not as many as we used to have, but they're still around. So definitely make sure that you give those a gander. Rick says the NDB handbook is great for this type of ID as well. It's not free, but it is available as well. So there you go. DDP in Puerto Rico gets out well. That's the one I heard. DDP in Puerto Rico. I can't remember the frequency, but that's the one I heard down here in Mandeville a couple weeks ago. All right. Let's do some more shout outs. Because you guys have got so many things that you've been able to get to this week, new logs, new states, new things like that. I want to make sure we get these in. And then we're going to talk about some FMDX here in a few moments. Let me go ahead and close out the AirSpy. And we're going to open up the Elad FDMS3 and SDR Console so we can get that sucker ready. Because we're going to do some FMDX here in a little bit. We don't usually do FMDX here on DX Central Live because of the music. But I think we can get away with it here in this case because we'll be listening to a lot of static. As we do with these e-skip openings. So we're going to pull that over here. Okay. Let's get my horn of victory loaded. And we're going to start off with our friend Dennis up in Ladysmith, Virginia. New logs for Dennis this week included KOKC 1520. That's the second Oklahoma station for him at 1,800 miles. 1,811. KRHW in Sikeston, Missouri, 665 miles on 1520. WLKR 1510 Norwalk, Ohio. My brain's just trying to make up states for these places now. WDSL in Mocksville, North Carolina, 1520. WGHT in Pumpkin Lakes, New Jersey on 1500. WXYB, Indian Rocks. Actually got a chance to get them in, right? Even though they don't like to ID. 764 miles. WEAL 1510 Greensboro. WWBC in Cocoa, Florida, 691 miles. XEUR 1530 Mexico. WLQV in Detroit, WNWR in Philly, and WLGN in Logan, Ohio. All new ones this week for Dennis. So, my friend, we blow the horn of victory for you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good job, my friend. Alrighty. I'm going to go ahead and cue up this recording. So you might hear a little bit here in a second for some audio from this recording. There we go. All right, next on our list, we got Carl. Carl in Kingsport, Tennessee. And what did Carl hear this week? Well, 14 new logs with 7 new ones from the challenge frequencies. Highlights include the first log on 1510 outside of WLAC with WLG in Logan, Ohio, and XEUR for Mexico number 4, and also WYGR in Wyoming, Michigan. That probably made you kind of go, woo, Wyoming. Both on 1530, only 1540 yielded no new logs for the challenge frequencies this week. Well, my friend, for what you did get, we got you a nice log saw and the horn of victory. Good job, Carl, my friend. 14 new ones. That's always good. And we continue on to Tom Laskowski in South Bend, Indiana. 3 new ones. 1510 WLGN and Logan. You guys were hearing them like crazy. I never did hear them. WGLL in Auburn, Indiana. Only 65 miles, but have a very local station for them on 1580. So the 1570 WGLL was a new one. And XEUR 1530 Mexico City during the absence of WCKY, which I could not participate in for the most part because of the lightning that we had around the area at the time. It was not a New Mexican state form, but a new log. So Tom gets the log and the horn of victory. All right, let's see here. Our friend Sean Kutzko in Champaign, Illinois. 8 new logs during this week's challenge, 15 total. The farthest was WWBC 1510, 917 miles out of Cocoa, Florida. Lowest power was KKLC 1510 in Parsons, Kansas at 250 watts, 419 miles. Also heard XECPR 660 in Quintana Roo, one of my basically near local stations here, for a New Mexico state for him. They're in the Yucatan Peninsula. Love that station, actually. They play a lot of good music, by the way. So we're going to start off the Horn of Victory with a little log saw. And for the New Mexican state of Quintana Roo, we say, yes, sir! You guys have got some good stuff in here. I'm looking ahead at some of these that are coming. So if you have not yet put your shout out into the shout out form, we have a form for that. We got everything nice and organized so that my handwriting is atrocious. When I was writing this stuff down, I used to miss stuff all the time. I don't like that. So we're going to let you do the form, and there's a link for that. So if you have a shout out that you want to get in, new log, new country, new station, new state, new Mexican state, new Louisiana log you hadn't heard before, new Canadian provinces. Anyone going to let the moose loose tonight? We did a lot last week, but I don't see this week yet. Gotta get the moose loose. So get those in, and we'll get you a shout out in here as well. All right, let's go to our next one on the list. Our friend Bill the Hammer Curry in Michigan. 10 new ones this week, including a new country. So I'm going to get the passport stamp ready. A little ink on the pad here. 780 ZBVI in Tortola, British Virgin Islands. Get you a stamped passport, my friend. It's a new country. I'm so jealous, actually. I want this one so bad. I want this country so bad. But for whatever reason, things in that direction, Puerto Rico, have only one Puerto Rican here. I want BVI really bad. But good job, my friend. Really, really proud of you there. 1530 KZNX in Creedmoor, Texas. 1530 WZTE in Union City, Pennsylvania. Also on 1530 XEUR in Mexico City, Distrito Federal. 1540 KLKC in Parsons, Kansas. A lot of you guys heard that one too. I didn't hear them this week. KTGG in Spring Arbor, Michigan. WADK in Newport, Rhode Island. Woo! On 1540, that's a nice one. Look at this, Newport, Rhode Island. All right, man. Where was I? WNWR, also 1540, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. WSMI in Litchfield, Illinois. And ZNS1, Nassau, Bahamas. All new logs for Bill, so we saw the log and blow the horn of victory! Love it, love it, love it. All right. Who's ready for some fireworks? I am. We got Steve in here in Mountain Home, Arkansas, getting 2 new states this week. 600 KSJB in Jamestown, North Dakota, and then 570 WNAX in Yankton, South Dakota. So both Dakotas fell this week for Steve. Good job, my friend. That's a good feeling when you get those in the logbook. I know a lot of you folks up in the Michigan, Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, all y'all up there up north, y'all kind of probably take the Dakotas for granted, but man, that's a good feeling when you get them in the logbook. Those are not easy for the rest of us, right, Stephanie? South Dakota, right? Barry Bankston, new log this week, KFBK in Sacramento on 1530. Good job, man. I wanted this one too. I looked for them when the brief WCKY outage was there, and I had a chance to go plug everything back in briefly. Didn't hear them. Weren't there. I really wanted them there, but that's all right. We'll get them next time. And Mike Westfall in Fluvanna County, Virginia. Guess what? Mike got some new ones this week, including to be LQV in Michigan, WVSM in Alabama, both on 1500. 1510 netted him XEPBGR in Jalisco, Mexico, WEAL in South Carolina, and WLGN in Ohio. 1520 brought WNDO in Florida, the XYB in Florida, and 1530 WYMM in Florida, WENG in Florida, XEUR in Mexico. Guess what? Jalisco XEPBGR Radio Ballet was a New Mexican state! Yes, Estado de Mexico! Yes, sir. And we got to get you a log saw in there for those other logs. Don't forget about you out there. And as a side note, I love how you guys have picked up in the Slack channel when people post new logs they've got. They have the little log emoji. Love that. Love that, man. Love it. All right, so let's talk some FMDX here. We're going to get to some more shout outs here in a little bit. If you guys have some more to submit, make sure you get those into the form. And I will be putting some of mine in here in a little bit as well. We're doing my shout outs for my week this week on FM, which is not done. We still have more recording review left to do. But let's talk about FM for a second. So it started out this week. I want to say it was Tuesday or Wednesday. We're starting to notice some activity. We'd had an opening very, very brief on Saturday after our live stream. Extremely brief. The boot crew up north here in Arkansas was seeing out west, and I got a RDS autologger hit on a station in Arizona for a new state for me. So might as well go ahead and get this one out of the way. And then Sean, before he leaves here, Sean Cusco in Illinois, I got to give him some props. Worked New Zealand on 6 meters. Okay, that's there you go. Also was getting some stuff out west, I think, on 6 meters as well. But worked New Zealand on 6 meters this week. And by the way, around that time, we were seeing some of this opening on the FM side. It did. The MUF got to rise up a bit and got to work into the FM band for some of us here in the kind of central Gulf South area. And that is when we had a little bit of an opening into Mexico at first on the 22nd. Okay. And then that opening kind of subsided a little bit. I'm trying to remember how the timeline went. So that was around, I want to say that was around, and correct me if I'm wrong, boot crew, it's like 5, 6 o'clock, somewhere in there. We had the opening into Mexico. And then that kind of subsided a little bit. And then I think it was around 7 or so, it popped back again. And now we had an opening out west. And you guys were seeing like Nevada, into Tucson, Phoenix area in Arizona, things like that. I was seeing up 300 degrees direct. I mean, it was like between 298 and 302 degrees bearing for me, which was right there at the Four Corners. It was northwest New Mexico. It was Durango, Colorado. It was Pueblo. It was like right in that little area right there. So just getting hammered with stations in this little Four Corners area, all right, really quick, rapid fire. And then that kind of started to subside a little bit. And then we got some more later on. And that's when I got Wyoming popped up on my RDS autologger. Just out of the blue popped up. So that was the 22nd. And then I want to say, was it the 23rd? Somewhere else, we had another opening into Colorado. I have to go back and look at my logbook. I want to say it was the 23rd. We had another opening from here into Colorado. And then last night we had another opening into Mexico that just wouldn't. It would come in. We'd have these nice big fade ups, and then it would go away, and then it would kind of fade back in, and then it'd go away. And so I want to talk a bit about, before we dive into kind of the recording review piece, how we identified these openings were happening. What were some of the mechanics that went behind saying, hey, there's E-skip happening here in January? Because normally you're not looking for that stuff, right? Like if you're not looking for E-skip, sometimes you can miss it. So how do we know this was going on? Well, I'll give you a good example. Last night was one of them. I was sitting here and I had, because there had been some E-skip on 6 meters, I had my ham radio rig running and decoding FT8 on 6 meters on 50.313, just to see if anything was coming in. Because if 6 meters is opening, then you have a chance at FM. If it's not open, it's less likely. You could still maybe get something going on FM, but probably not. If you're not seeing anything on 6 meters, the MUF isn't going any higher into a band that it's not already open from. So, so I was watching this 6 meter FT8 frequency, decoding with WSJTX, and I was seeing a lot of Mexico, a lot of little Belize, a lot of Mexico. And so I mentioned in our Slack channel, the FMDX Slack channel, I said, hey guys, I'm seeing 6 meters FT8 decoding from Mexico here in Louisiana. And it wasn't like just a minute later. It seemed like just like almost instantly, Keegan in Arkansas, part of the boot crew, actually heard down in New Mexico on FM. And my RDS autologger hadn't been spotting anything yet on FM, so I hadn't fired up the Yagi yet. That's usually like, if someone sees anything, or if I have an autologger hit, Then I'll fire up the Yagi and the Elad, and I'll start going to town. I hadn't seen that yet, so I hadn't gotten those fired up. As soon as Keegan hit, he had that hit, which then put me inside the donut. We talked about the donut before, right? So when there's an FM opening, there's kind of this range of people who could be impacted by the e-skip cloud that's happening. And so I was in that kind of grouping, and I got an alert from FM list. Now, we have a video here on our YouTube channel that talks about that, about the donut, about the e-skip alerts, so that you can make sure that you receive the emails and be notified when these are happening in your area. And if there's a possibility that you having an e-skip opening in your area, you can get these alerts sent to you so you can kind of know. So instantly I got the hit, and I was like, ooh, what is that? Saw on the map, it was Keegan hearing, and I was like, Keegan's hearing Mexico. He's north of me. So he was in a line going down to Mexico, so I knew I'd be kind of somewhere in that regard, right? Somewhere kind of maybe a little bit off to the side, because he's here, I'm over here, so maybe mine's going to be more like this, he's going to be more like this, but I'll be kind of somewhere in that general area. And sure enough, fired up the Elad with the Yagi antenna, there was Mexico. So it was a nice little surprise. It just kind of all clicked together. It was the combination of the 6-meter opening that I saw. It was the combination of the FM alerts from FM list, the e-skip alerts from FM list coming in because of other DXers getting stuff in my area, all these auto loggers and people seeing stuff happening on those. And there's also something, I'm going to talk about this when we look at our FM recording review. I call them beacon frequencies. And this is one of the things I've talked about here on the channel before during the live stream, is this is the time of the year when, for most of us, FM is dead, to go in and do a band scan on your local FM band. Know that thing backwards and forwards. Go through every single frequency, make a spreadsheet, a little spiral notebook, whatever you got to do to notate every single frequency in your local area from 88.1 to 107.9. Notate what you hear. And if it's one where you have a station there, maybe it's a local, maybe it's something a little further away, notate it. You can even notate the signal strength. It gives you an idea what to kind of expect. If it's open and there's nothing there, is it truly open, or do you have an HD signal that you're kind of sitting on and from another station local above it? For instance, 97.1 here in New Orleans is a big HD signal. So 96.9 and 97.3, I've got HD signals on the sides there, right? So they're not truly open on those two frequencies. I've got these HD signals to contend with. It's why we have a station on 101.1. It's why 100.9, I have nothing logged on that frequency yet, because there's never been anything powerful enough to overcome the HD signal from 101.1. So you want to know your band, and you want to find those frequencies that are truly open. No HD signal from another station nearby on another frequency, either above or below. No local stations, no semi-local stations in like an 100-mile radius that's going to be there. You want a dead frequency. Nothing's there. Anytime you go there during deadband, it's just static. Those are your beacon frequencies, okay? If you hear something on one of those frequencies, you know something is, could be tropo. I say tropo. Some folks say tropo. I'm a tropo guy. It could be tropo, it could be meteor scatter, it could be an e-skip opening. Okay, and we'll talk a bit here as we go through as to some of the characteristics of what e-skip kind of sounds like compared to tropo and some of these others. But if you are on those beacon frequencies and you see something happening on those, that should be your clue something's happening here. There are some resources online I'll show you here in a moment that you can also use to look at visually to see kind of what the bands are doing. And that can also kind of help clue you in if there's a possible opening occurring. So let's take a look at the first one here, actually, that a lot of folks like to look at. I mentioned what usually happens with these e-skip openings is they start down low, okay, and in the 10 and 6 meter ham bands, okay? So we're talking 28 megahertz and 50 megahertz. That's the first two places, at least here in the US, the first two places most people are going to notice that e-skip is occurring, okay? You've got some other frequencies in between there that some folks use as well as kind of beacons, but 10 meters and especially 6. 6 is the big one that a lot of people are going to use. So when you go to this website right here, I'm going to put it in the chat. This is the e-skip DX map, dxmaps.com, okay? This is using spotted communication from ham radio operators on the 6 meter band, which is 50 megahertz, roughly 50 to 54 megahertz. And so if they've gone up there and they've submitted that they've worked somebody on this frequency range, it'll populate on this map here with their call sign and the call sign of the person that they work. Okay, that's how this kind of basically works. And so what you're looking at here is, in this case, NO0T/portable worked this KE4TH and this W0 station down here as well, right? So that's some e-skip communications that actually occurred here on this evening. Now, during an e-skip opening, what you'll see is a whole bunch of red, and a lot of times it'll go from like over here to over here, over here to over here, over here to here, or maybe it's across the entire US, but you'll see a bunch of red. If you look on here and you see just a ton of red lines, 6 meters is wide open, okay? You'll see this in the summertime all the time. 6 meters is wide open. There's communication happening all over the place. So when you see that, that's your first clue that, hey, the conditions are there so that e-skip can be happening, because it's happening on the 50 megahertz band. If it's not happening there, it's probably not going to happen on FM, right? Tends to not skip around in that way. Usually it starts there on 50 megahertz, and then as that strengthens, what happens is what's called the MUF, the maximum usable frequency, will rise. And as that rise, it goes up to 60, 70 megahertz, and now it gets into the low end of the FM band around 88. It keeps on going up. It keeps going up. If this is a strong opening, keeps going up. Now we're talking like 92 megahertz into the commercial portion of the band. Keeps going 106, 107. Now if it keeps going, now we're talking about getting into the 2 meter bands for ham radio. Maybe if it keeps going, we're talking about the weather band, 160 megahertz for like no weather frequencies, things like that. We saw some of that this week. So as that MUF continues to rise, it continues to bring into it these upper frequencies that are now having e-skip conditions. And so if FM is going to happen, it's going to happen first in 6 meters. So just because 6 is open doesn't mean FM will be, but FM won't be open if 6 meters isn't, traditionally, okay? From an e-skip opening, at least. So another thing that happens as well is as that MUF rises, okay, and gets higher and higher and higher, the lower frequencies, the skip gets shorter and shorter and shorter. So as I'm seeing my MUF rise up to 107, 108 and higher, the distance on those is probably, if it was like 1,000, 1,200, 1,300 miles, something like that, guess what? Down the low end of the band, my skip is usually going to get shorter here. You might start seeing some 800, 900, 700 mile catches down the lower end of the band. If it gets real high, that even can get shorter to 400, 500, 600 mile catches on e-skip on the lower end of the band as that MUF continues to rise up. So that's some of the characteristics of these e-skip openings. This website here, this DX Maps website, is a good one to look at. Another one that you can look at here on this same one, so this is the 50 megahertz tab right here is where I am for this 6 meter opening. Another good one that you can look at is this MUF map right here, this MUF SP-E. Now, there's not a lot here right now, but you see this right here, this little green box, this is 48. There's a little yellow one here, kind of yellowish. This is 61. There's a 52 right here. That is the MUF. That's the maximum usable frequency for that particular area right there. During an e-skip opening, you're going to see a bunch of, like a big grid of these things all over the place, and you'll start to see spikes. Where you see those spikes, guess what? There's where an opening is happening, right? So if you see that 108, 109, 110, that kind of stuff, you see that MUF start to climb up in certain areas, that means there's an opening going on in that area, right? So what do we look at when we look at this donut that I talked about? How do I know, okay, an opening is occurring? What does that mean for me? Okay, what does that mean? How can I tell that an opening is happening? Where would I know to look? Well, let me show you something here really quick. Let me go back to the 22nd. Let's just look at this date. This is FM list. Where do we put this? Actually, let me just put this FM list. So this is the website here, fmlist.org. There's a couple things you can do here. One, I highly recommend that you become a registered user of FM list, because this is how you'll be able to submit loggings. And when you submit loggings of what you're hearing, other people can be alerted, because now it populates on this map that you see in front of you right here. And when that happens, these donuts get populated and alerts start going out and things like that. So this is the FMDX that occurred on the 22nd of January, just a couple of days ago. Okay, this is not a June, this is not a July, this is January of 2024. So here is what you have. You have a bunch of different people here, these little black antennas are DXers, right? So registered DXers. These orange little FMs, those are receptions that they heard. The green line here is the path. So what happens is, let me just show this log player. This actually will show you what happened here on this timeline. Trying to remember, that was at 21:55 UTC. So let's do this between the 22nd. Let's do 20 to, we'll do 2300 UTC. Okay. So you see these little donuts here that are populating, right? These green circles. What these are, these donuts that I'm talking about, is when there is a log that's happening. Let's say we have a person here in Arkansas, right about here, that hears a station down here in Mexico. Well, because of that, this FM list, once that person in Arkansas logs that station, it's going to then say, okay, there's a path from here to here. And the center of that's probably, based on the mileage between these two, the center is probably somewhere right in here. Wherever that center is, okay, that is potentially where the E-skip cloud is. And the E-skip cloud is just an ionization of the E layer of the atmosphere, that FM signals go up and then they bounce back down, okay? So that ionization, they bounce off that ionization layer, because normally they just keep going up into the space, right? To pass the ionosphere into space. But they hit that layer, that little ionization layer that's there, and it bounces back down. Well, when that happens, wherever it bounces back down to, that's where it comes in. So in this case, let's say I'm in Arkansas and I'm hearing a station down in Mexico. That means that signal is leaving Mexico, it's hitting this E-skip cloud, and it's bouncing back down and hitting a receiver down here in Arkansas. Just right? That's basically what's happening. So where the center is of that path is where the E-skip cloud would be that it's hitting and bouncing back down. That's the general gist of it. It can be much more complicated than that. I'm probably oversimplifying, but that's the general gist. So with that in mind, if Arkansas is hearing Mexico, and let's say this little center area right here is the middle of my donut, then that means this station over here, this person over here in Mississippi can probably be hearing a station over here in New Mexico or Texas, because that center of that cloud, that center of that donut where the cloud is, it's giving me, Arkansas, this path into Mexico, but it's giving another DXer here off to the side. That same cloud is going to bounce signals from over here back down to you in Mississippi. That's why over here, I was hearing in Louisiana, I was also hearing Mexico, but it was a slightly different angle than what Arkansas was hearing. When Arkansas was hearing stuff into Arizona and New Mexico, when the center of the donut was right in here, I was hearing up into Colorado, because for me, you basically draw a straight line from you to the middle of that circle. And that on the other side of that's where you should be hearing. Okay, so for me, that was Colorado. That was this four corners area right up in here. As for me, if you drew a straight line from my place through that donut, that's where the other side would come out. Okay, so that's generally speaking what FMDX looks like when an E-skip opening is happening. So with that in mind, let's talk a bit about how I review these recordings. Okay, so what I typically do is I'm going to start at the top. For me, because I'm recording the entire FM band, I want to start at the top of the band after the event's all over, and I've recorded my recording, and I'm going back in later and reviewing it. I like to start at the top of the band and work my way down. The reason for that is I get a really good sense of what the MUF was, right? What was my maximum frequency that I had in that particular opening? And then I also like to kind of get a sense of what are the directions there, right? My May 31st recording that I'm still finishing up, I can tell you it lasted 3 hours. I can tell you, okay, from this time to this time, I was hearing the Dakotas, Minnesota, and Michigan. And then that started to drift east, and I started hearing over into Virginia and Maryland. And then I was hearing up into like Rhode Island and Connecticut, and then it was back over into like Pennsylvania and New York, right? So I could tell you based on the time where those should have been, what directions I should have been hearing based on what I was hearing from the top down. So that's one of the reasons I like to start at the top. So I would start at 107.9, see if there's anything there. And if not, then I go to 107.7. If there's nothing there, I go to 107.5. Oh, got a local there. Let me go down to 107.3 and so on. In this case, let's just start here at 100.1 because that's where I am in my recording right now. And so I just hit start and I just start playing it. Now, right now, I've got a lot of static. I'm going to turn this down just a little bit. I've got nothing but static here. So one of the things you can do, now there is an analyzer in here that you can use. Let me just pause this for a second. There is an analyzer. I'm using SDR Console for this. There's an analyzer within SDR Console that you can use, so it can basically tell you where the fade ups are and things like that. that can be good with an opening like this that I'm talking about here from the 22nd, because it wasn't consistent. It wasn't always in. It was just kind of fading in and out. So I haven't done that yet, but I could. But what I want to show you now is for a typical E-skip opening where it's like just it's in there and it's wall to wall from the time that it starts to the time that it finishes. The analyzer is not going to do as much for you because it's going to tell you, hey, there was a signal here, and you're like, well, I know that. Yeah, so you just have to really a lot of times kind of go through the recording, sometimes minute by minute, and see what's there. So one of the things you can use is this navigator button right here. It's going to bring up this little window, and with that window you have each one of these boxes is a minute, and so I can skip ahead and go through these minutes very, very quickly. So on a frequency like this where I don't have a whole lot going on, I can just hit this, play, and I'm listening for fade ups. Now, Lloyd, there's a chance that you're missing some stuff because there could be a fade up in between those minutes, and it's a quick fade up and it's gone. Yes, I know. That's a very real possibility. And so if you don't want to do that, you can actually go in here, and what I usually do is on this seek here, this back or forward, I'll set this seek to like 5 seconds or 10 seconds, somewhere in there, and I'll just sit here literally and do this. I'm skipping 10 seconds at a time, and I'm listening for any audio. And if I hear any audio, I'll stop. I'll reset to like 2 or 5 seconds, and I'll go back and try to find that audio clip that was in there. See if anything faded up, any IDs. Now, this method here with the navigator here that I was talking about by skipping minutes, I use that for local stations where I have a local frequency I have a local station on. HD, anywhere where I have a HD local I'm sitting on, I'm just kind of blowing through that thing really quick. I'm listening for any kind of fades up. If I hear any kind of staticiness to that signal that's usually a little bit stronger, I know that means there's a little bit of something coming in there that's not usual. If I hear any different audio than what, if I'm hearing talk all of a sudden, like a talk radio program on a hits frequency where there's like a hits radio station, I know something that's weird going on. So I can use that to kind of blow through it pretty quick, or you can either use that or, like I said, these seek buttons, but that's what I usually do. Now, if I have a frequency where I have something going on, like let's say 92.1, where I had several stations that were coming in and out during that time, I'm going to be a little more deliberate. I'm going to be a little, especially on my beacon frequencies, a little bit more deliberate and a little more careful about exactly what I'm listening for and how fast I'm going through that recording, because I don't want to miss anything. One of the things I also do here, I talk about the beacon frequencies, is in SDR Console, you can add these additional quote-unquote receivers. And so it's monitoring each of these frequencies that if you add a receiver, you can add that frequency on there, and it's monitoring each of those receivers pretty much all the time. And what I like to do with that is I'll just start from the low end, and I'll bounce up the band as I go up, and I'm looking for any signals in here. I did this constantly this week during these openings. So in this case, let me go back and hit play. So I'm on 88.3. There's something there. 89.5. I got a little something there. There's 91.5. Okay, got some stuff going on there. A little bit. Oh, definitely 92.1. It's got something. 92.5 is a little quieter. 100.1 is a little quiet. 96.1's got something. So I'm just kind of going through my those beacon frequencies. In a live environment, I'm actually looking for those signals. And if I hear something, I'll stop and I'll hang out, and I'm looking to see if I hear an ID, which is not as common as it should be, but sometimes these are in and out pretty quick, especially this time of the year. I'm also looking for RDS. I'm looking for this radio data systems code. And let me show you what it looks like. I'm just going to go here to one where I know I've got a strong one. And here you go. See this right here? This code right here? That's not Fort Lauderdale, unfortunately. Sometimes these codes come in with bogus information. This is the local station here in New Orleans on 98.5. But that code right there, that 1529, is associated with my local station. Now, how do I know what that is? That code? How do I know what station that is with that code? fmlist.org has that information on their station list. You can also find it on the Worldwide TV FMDX Association database. They have a database of stations that contains these RDS codes as well. So you can use these to look for, okay, I've got a 1529 coming in. Who is that on 98.5? I can look it up and find it to be YLD New Orleans. Or I've got a CC1C on this frequency. Who is that? Okay, that's the station over here in Mexico. Or I think it was 11CC was the one I had the other day. So you can actually use these codes to help you get stations in your logbook, even if you don't hear an ID. Be careful. Sometimes false decodes can happen, but if what you're hearing and what you're seeing on the decode and all that kind of lines up and matches up, it can be a great way to add stations to your logbook that maybe you wouldn't have if you were just listening for an actual audible ID. Because sometimes with these e-skip openings and Tropo openings, but more of the e-skip and the meteor scatter openings, you're probably not going to get an ID. Because a lot of times they're in and out super, super fast. So sometimes all you have is an RDS decode. So that can be a very, very helpful thing. All right. So hopefully that's kind of just a little insight into what I was doing here this week with my FM opening. I know we've got top of the hour coming up here in just a few minutes, so I want to get back to that. But just a little bit of an insight into when these openings happen. This is the perfect time of the year to train yourself and begin getting ready for the upcoming FMDX season, which will be starting before you know it in late spring, early summer. So now, get your band scans done now. Learn your band now. Find your open beacon frequencies now. Tropo season for a lot of folks is around the corner, especially our coastal friends. Tropo season is just around the corner. And we're talking like March, April timeframe into May, especially here in the Gulf South. It's coming. We're going to get a lot of Tropo openings, and that's going to give us stuff that we don't normally get to hear on like e-skip openings, right? Or it's a little bit too short for e-skip, but it's a little bit too far for our regular deadband conditions. It gets that nice little intermediate area. Some of those states kind of close by to you. That's what Tropo is great for. So learn your band now. Get that stuff noted down. Write it down. Put it in a spreadsheet. Whatever you have to do. Know what your beacon frequencies are going to be. Okay, when this goes down, where am I going to look? And then as you accumulate logs, as you get even more experience behind your belt, what you can then do is, okay, what are my frequencies where I have the most logs or are always open during an opening? And then you'll kind of refine your beacon frequencies to say, okay, like me, 92.1 is always going to be checked every opening. 91.5 is always going to be checked every single opening. 94.5 is always going to be checked every single opening, because those three frequencies are constantly giving me gold. Absolutely. When times nothing else on the band has got anything coming in, those three frequencies seem to always have at least some kind of e-skip opening. When there's an opening going on, I can have the entire band be nothing, but those three somehow give me something, right? So, all right, something to kind of think about as we get ready for FMDX season, which is, again, just around the corner. All right, let's go ahead and get ready for some more live DX. We're on the AM side of things, and let's spend some time here on 1420 because we got top of the hour coming up here, and we're on the new frequencies of the week, 1420 and 1410 for our U.S. folks, 1413 and 1422 for our U.S. or international folks, 1410 and 1420 for our international folks too. You all get to play along. Let's see what we have here on 1420 as of right now. We're going to be on the northeast wire, the Superloop. Let's see what's there. Got a nice Spanish station in here on 1420. hear it too, Carl. I hear Lucy as well. I wonder if that's that other station we were hearing earlier that had oldies. Let me see if I can... They're definitely on the northeast side from here. All right, Bill, here we go. Fire off those sirens. That's my guess right there. No, you're good, Keegan. I was a little tardy to the party on that one. Yeah, that's my guess of who this is, Carl. All right, so let's rewind here and see if upper sideband might give us a little bit better look. This sounds like some basketball, right? That also, that Lucy in the Sky, that could also have been WACT here in Tuscaloosa. I'm guessing it was probably Murfreesboro, Illinois, but there's a good chance it could have been also Tuscaloosa as well.
Looking pretty confident. The United Nations International Court of Justice of Israel must take all measures to prevent acts of genocide in Gaza. The ruling is connected to a wider case brought by South Africa against Israel that claims that parts of Israel's capital like parts of genocide were character.
I just did this one's kind of a mush right now. Let me see if 1410 was NGL again. Is that Cuban music in there? Salsa?
Mobile, Alabama.
You're listening to an encore presentation of LA Catholic Morning.
They're relentless. They won't go away. So these are going to be some fun frequencies this week to see if we can squeeze something out. I'm not anticipating a whole lot of people with 30, 40, 50 stations logged here between these two frequencies. If you do, I'll be very impressed. This is going to be a much lighter week overall on the numbers, so we'll see how that goes. But I just anticipate this being a little bit lighter. Before we end up wrapping up for tonight's show, as we are getting close here to the end of the time, we do have one more shout out to get to on the list, and then I'll do kind of a quick recap of what I had this week as well. Our friend Neil Wolfish in Toronto, Ontario, got a new one, 1490 WGEZ in Wisconsin. So you know what that means. That means if we have a new Wisconsin station, we gotta cut the cheese. Oh yeah! Oh man, this is too much fun. So there we go. That's our shout outs for this week for all of you guys. Let me go ahead and pull up my logbook and just recap what I managed to squeeze out of the atmosphere, the ionosphere this week. It was a good week. Obviously, we had the big FM opening here, up to 859 logs now here on the FM side. 36 states though, because we did get 2 new states this week. So I've already did the Arizona. We also got Colorado for a new one this week. Two new U.S. states on the FM side, Colorado and Arizona, and we also got 3 new states out of Mexico on the FM side. I know Chihuahua was one. There's a friend of mine in high school who say Chihuahua. I know they were one. I'm trying to remember who the other ones were. Where was it? Why is my FM logbook not showing up here? Oh, it's under G Suite or logbooks. That's right. I'm in the wrong bookmark folder here. There's my FM logbook. Total logs that we heard this week on FM so far. I still have a lot of recording left to review though. But so far it was, let me go down here to Arizona. If I include the Arizona station, it's 26 this week, 26 new ones so far, with a bunch left to get to. Heard a new station out of Nebraska, a new station out of Wyoming, a bunch in Colorado. Like I said, several new stations out of Mexico, including some new states out of Mexico, and a new Tropo catch on 94.5 on out of Alabama. I'm telling you, that frequency is just so good. That was happening at the same time I was getting Eastskip to New Mexico. I was getting this Tropo opening in Alabama. So you get the logs there. And on the medium wave side of things, we also had a pretty good week earlier this week. So last time we met was the 19th, right? So that means we did have 3 new ones that made the logbook this week. To be KLKC in McPherson, Kansas, the MQM out of Lakeland, Tennessee, and the one I was most excited about, 1600 Fayetteville, North Carolina. We don't get a lot of the Carolinas over here, which is ironic because I've lived in both of them, but we did get that one this week on 1600, so new one there as well. Yes, sir. So that was our week. A lot of FM, a little bit of AM, but a lot of FM this week, and I'm here for it. Anytime we can get an FM opening, I'm telling you, man, just inject that right into my veins because that stuff is just so much fun. All right, so dxchallenges.com. Make sure you go and register so you can be part of this week's Medium Wave Frequency Challenge. A reminder, no show next week. We will not be doing a show on Friday night this coming week on the 2nd. We will be out the Mardi Gras parades, but I will have everything posted up to have the new frequencies of the week launched. So make sure you go to dxchallenges.com, and I'll make sure that new form is available for you so that you'll have the opportunity to go in there and start the new week off right with our new next grouping of frequencies. And also be sure to go to our Twitter feed, twitter.com/dxcentral. You'll see the post there that'll tell the new frequencies and have the link, and also our website, dxcentralonline.com. We'll post it on our blog as well. Have all that scheduled out to post up while we're at the parade. So, my friends, take care. 73, best of DX to you all. Have a great and safe week and a great week of DX. We'll catch you next time right here on DX Central Live.
This is DX Central Live. This is DX Central Live.